in TCO Studios talking to Pat McAfee Show's Tys Schmit, who is the resident Packers fan, albeit he was kind enough to wear a gray sweatshirt for us today. So no obnoxious shirt we've got going on in this interview. Thanks for doing this, though, Ty.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know if you would have ever thought you'd be on Vikings content, but we had to talk to you ahead of this big rivalry game. It felt like the Dolphins kind of gift wrapped that win for you last week on Christmas Day. How's the team heading into this Vikings game after that win?
I think pretty good. I mean, you could say gift wrapped maybe, but at the end of the day, you know, the Packers had to win that game, and they did. They came up big. They, you know, were opportunistic on defense, forced a couple turnovers in the last few possessions, and they've been playing must-win games for the last month and a half now. So it's everyone kind of realizes I'd say in Packerland, the feeling is, you know, this team is kind of starting to turn things around, and it kind of feels perfect that, you know, the Vikings are the next team in the path, and the Packers have to take care of business if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that because about a couple weeks ago, I don't know if anyone thought this game would have as much meaning as it's about to. The Packers playing for their playoff lives, the Vikings trying to ward off the 49ers and keep that number 2 seed. How do you feel Sunday's game is going to go?
I don't know. It's interesting because the betting markets, for one, like the Packers as favorites at home, which is kind of crazy. I still think a lot of teams don't necessarily respect the Vikings, whether that's because they play a bunch of close games or, you know, they haven't looked that great. But it seems I mean, you know, being a lifelong Packers fan, like I've seen this song and dance from the Vikings so many times. You know, they've had a lot of good teams, and then down the stretch, for whatever reason, it seems like they kind of just fizzle out. So, I mean, we had Aaron on the show yesterday. Like, everyone knows the expectations. They know what needs to happen for them to make the playoffs. And I think they are starting to turn the corner at the right time. I, at the very least, expect it to be much more competitive than it was the first time around. And more so than anything, I personally need the Packers to win because I am sick and tired of that scumbag Victor the Viking. He's, you know, he's danced on everyone's grave in this office, and rightfully so. But if I have to, you know, wake up on Monday morning and see a tweet or like an Instagram post or something like that from that deplorable, despicable scumbag, I don't know how I'm going to live with myself going into the new year.
Let's Victor sleep in today, so there's no surprise appearances from him this week. But I know you were the first domino in that, and it's now come back around, which for your sake, I hope is okay. But for our sake, these Vikings obviously wanting to improve to 13-3. And you mentioned, though, that the Vikings have had a lot of close games. The only one not close has been that Week 1, 23-7 win against the Packers. But now you've got Aaron Rodgers on the show coming on and talking. When you guys sat down with him, he talked about David Bakhtiari potentially being back. Do you think you'll see him on Sunday?
Honestly, I have no idea. It's kind of one of those things with him going. I mean, it's been 2 years now where you kind of try to temper your expectations because you get excited thinking he's going to be back, and then, you know, there's some sort of minor setback or he plays, you know, limited snaps, and then he's not playing. So I think just it'd be great if he's out there, but, you know, they know what they need to do without him, even if he's not out there. I mean, he hasn't played in several weeks now. So I feel like Zach Tom has been very good out there. They're starting to get a little bit of cohesion on the offensive line, but obviously he's one of the best left tackles in football. So if he's healthy and he's ready to go, then you want him out there protecting Aaron's blind side.
What are the Packers doing right now that has been able to lead to this turnaround late in the season?
You know, it's tough to really put a finger on anything. I mean, for one, forcing turnovers on defense, because they just early in the season, you know, I think up until a few weeks ago, they'd maybe only forced like 4 turnovers. And during this little winning streak here, they've forced 12 in the last 3 or 4 games. Like, getting the offense more opportunities to have extra possessions and try to put some points on the board. And then Keyshawn Nixon, Aaron mentioned it yesterday. Yeah. I can't remember the last time the Packers had that explosive of a kickoff or punt return guy. I mean, it makes a huge difference when you're starting, you know, on your opponent's 6-yard line as opposed to starting on your own 6-yard line. And the Packers haven't really had very many guys who have been able to kind of flip the field like that. So all those little things, and then, you know, just these young rookie receivers who early in the season got a lot thrown at them. You know, they were expected to contribute immediately and maybe weren't really ready or weren't on the same page with Aaron. And now Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, are on the field a lot more together. So I think everyone is kind of getting up to speed and playing their best ball at the right time here.
Yes, it's an exciting matchup to see Keyshawn Nixon against Kene Nwangwu for sure. Who'd have thought we'd be saying that heading into this game as well.
Yeah.
But you've got a little bit of a homecoming for guys like Zadarius Smith, Chandon Sullivan, a couple of coaches on the current Vikings staff. What do you think the reception will be like?
I don't know. That's interesting. I know Zadarius Smith and the Packers kind of had things weren't great when he left there. And I know in the first game this season, he was okay with letting, the sideline and everyone else know kind of, hey, you guys made a mistake by not bringing me back. But, Chandon Sullivan, some of those other guys, like I think there's still a lot of love there. But the Zadarius Smith one for sure, I think there's still some bad blood there. And it's tough because he was so good in 2020 and then had the injury, issues in 2021. And now Packers fans are watching. It's like, oh, of course, this guy, comes back and has, another incredible year for our biggest rival. It's like flashes of Brett Favre, taking the Vikings to the NFC Championship. It's tough to swallow, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, Aaron Rodgers is 15-0 in December since 2019, yet this game is on January 1st, New Year's Day. So what is your New Year's resolution, Ty, for the Packers this year?
Score more in the red zone, I think.
Okay.
Score touchdowns in the red zone, I should say. At this point in the season, you hate to when you get those extra possessions and you only end up kicking field goals and you kind of leave the door open for teams like the Vikings who have proven that, hey, if they get an extra possession with, under a minute left, like they're the type of team who they might go down and score in, 35 seconds or they're winning on game-winning field goals. So I think that would be probably my biggest resolution. I think if they are a little bit more efficient in the red zone and score some touchdowns, I expect them to win these last two games and make the playoffs.
Well, that'll be very interesting since the Vikings are one of the better teams in the NFL in the red zone on defense. So something's got to give, I guess. Are you going to be at the game at all?
No, unfortunately not. Tough to get up there with, we have Overreaction Monday on Mondays. So, and it's one of those things where I would be sick to my stomach if I went live and watched them lose. So I just can't do that. But again, I don't expect that. And not to harp on this, but, Victor the Viking, the way he's been, bumping his gums and flapping them all season, it would be a real shame if the Vikings were, one of the final teams who kind of left the door open a little bit too much and let the Packers get back in the playoffs. I'd really hate for him on Monday. I wouldn't say anything. I'm sure no one would say anything, let's just say that, that guy, he personally, I think he's got his comeuppance coming. He's been on a hot streak and rightfully so, but karma, that bill tends to come due every once in a while. So
maybe so.
We'll see.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that because I don't think he's feeling any less confident heading into this week. I'm sure he has his dunk ready to go. So I'm just warning you, you might want to have yours just in case. Just, you don't have to be the better man, Ty.
Yeah, I guess not. And, it's not hard to be the better man than Victor, obviously, because like I mentioned, he is a scumbag and a clown. But although he is great with the memes and social media, I'm fully prepared. If it's not going to happen, so I'm not worried about it. But if the Packers were to lose, and the Vikings are the ones who kind of put the spike through their heart to end their season, I'm expecting that to be a tough Monday. But, I'm not worried about it right now. You can't be worried about it.
I gotcha. Well, I know a lot of Vikings fans are hoping that'll be the case for sure. Not just Victor, but pretty much all of Vikings Nation as they try to go for 13-3, as I said earlier. And I'm excited. My first trip to Lambeau for a Packers game. And I'm excited it's going to be a balmy 35. It's like a warm front. So can't wait for that game, honestly. So it'll be a really fun time. Thank you so much to Tys Schmit from the Pat McAfee Show for this fun interview. We appreciate your time, and best of luck for the rest of the season. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Go Pack, go. Appreciate it. Oh, I can't believe you just said that.